Hello and a very warm welcome back to the France 24 newsroom and this latest edition of Reporters. I'm Thomas Waterhouse. This week we're taking a closer look at a massive humanitarian crisis in Asia, sparked by what the UN has described as being a textbook example of ethnic cleansing. Since late August, clashes between the Burmese army and Rohingya militants in Rakhine state have forced well over 500,000 of the minority Muslim community to flee to the safety of Bangladesh. Many leading aid agencies have failed to secure permission from Burma to work in that restive northern region, and journalists have only been allowed in on closely supervised trips. France 24's Clovis Casali has been granted that rare access, and this is his report from there.
Entire Muslim villages wiped off the map. Hundreds of thousands of Rohingya have fled northern Rakhine in what NGOs call a scorched earth campaign inflicted by the army. Few journalists have been allowed in this state under military lockdown. We've been invited to follow a group of Burmese ministers and ambassadors from neighbouring countries. This PR operation aims to show that accusations of ethnic cleansing are unfounded. First stop, Anutpine, one of the last Rohingya villages in the area.
It's really important you don't leave your village. Aung San Suu Kyi said she will implement changes as soon as possible. We can help you to be safe. These people will help you.
Among these people are the same generals who cut off humanitarian access to Rakhine. The village is starving. The authorities have brought a doctor on this rare visit.
Mum, when's it over? I'm hungry.
Stop it, you keep saying this.
The Red Cross used to come twice a month, but they haven't come since July.
We decide to move away from the group of officials and encounter terrified villagers.
If I sleep here, the Rakhine people will kill me. But we can't go out of the village.
The discussion comes to an abrupt end. The villager has noticed soldiers filming us. One young Rohingya father is willing to talk. He thinks this might be his only chance to explain what is truly happening.
We've had no proper food for 3 months. We eat banana trunk and whatever we find. We can't leave because we're surrounded by 24 Buddhist villages. And we don't trust the government. They don't accept us as Rohingya. They call us Muslims.
He takes us to a quieter part of the village to meet his family. As an army helicopter flies over, a woman makes very clear gestures.
Go on, tell them.
There are people waiting all around with guns, and if we go out, we might get shot. There are also helicopters watching us. If we talk with foreign reporters like you, we know we will get beaten. The military is monitoring us, and they'll beat us as soon as you leave.
Please take us somewhere. Don't leave us.
They say the village is their prison.
Are you frightened?
They wonder if the world knows the situation of the Rohingya.
Okay.
Yes.
A neighbor steps in. He's worried about reprisals.
Don't listen to them. And you stop it. They don't understand.
No, it's okay. We should tell them as much as we can.
People will see what's happening. They can translate later.
Rohingya survivors accuse Burmese soldiers of raping and killing civilians. Under military escort, we drive through several ghost towns. come across an abandoned mosque. It's one of the only buildings still standing. The Muslim houses around have all been reduced to ashes. The next village along the road is a Buddhist one. It's been left intact. It's believed soldiers torched hundreds of Rohingya villages with the help of ethnic Rakhine Buddhists. The army, on the other hand, claims the Muslims themselves set fire to their own homes. We tried to question one of the generals in charge of operations. He's clearly reluctant to speak and asks an interpreter next to him to help him out.
People need to know what is happening. Tell me what is happening in
I can't answer these kinds of questions. It won't look good if I keep refusing to answer the journalists' questions. So please answer for yourself, for the best.
The army argues the international community exaggerates the extent of this humanitarian crisis. They say operations are conducted to simply restore order after militants of the Arakan Rohingya Salvation Army attacked police stations in late August.
We don't care if ARSA declares a ceasefire or not. We don't accept anything from terrorists. Our military don't fight, we only help and defend. We don't fight the Bengalis, we only fight the terrorists.
We are fighting only the terrorists, not the Bengalis.
The Burmese call the Rohingya Bengalis. It's one of the ways to stress they don't belong in the country. The Naf waters separate Bangladesh from Burma. Here at the mouth of the river, it's a perilous journey. Every day, hundreds of Rohingya wait on the beach, hoping to find fishermen who can smuggle them to a land where they will feel safe.
Talk out. They might help us.
We are suffering. Our homes and villages are gone. We have to go to Bangladesh.
They say relatives and friends were decapitated. Attackers even targeted children.
We can't stand all this torture any longer. We can't even cross over to Bangladesh, yet we can't go back to the village. We will get beaten if we go back.
It's a struggle for survival. Several boats capsized in recent weeks, but they say they have no other choice. Some Rohingya will embark with the children of fellow villagers killed in the recent violence. Over 15,000 orphans have already crossed into Bangladesh. We head to another beach where authorities are keen to show they're trying to prevent the exodus. The Bangladeshi ambassador meets Rohingya who have little food or water and are exhausted.
Otidong is quite far from here.
Yes.
So 50 kilometers. 50 kilometers. 4 to 5 days it took for them to come here.
The stateless Rohingya are about to realize that neither side wants to take them in.
10 days. If you stay here for long, I think you yourself will die here.
In that case, we let ourselves die.
If you go to Bangladesh, situation also very difficult there. On top of that, we have started talking to Myanmar so that we can bring the people back from Bangladesh.
It's hard to imagine they will ever return. The Burmese see them as illegal immigrants. The Rohingya are second-class citizens in a country where they've lived for generations. They speak a dialect different from Burmese, and so the doctor following our group decides he can't help them. The few translators here are busy.
I'm trying to communicate with them with Myanmar language, but nobody understands me and they didn't answer any question. So I have nothing to say about that. I don't know. Yeah.
His colleague tells us it's normal the Rohingya return to where they once came from. On camera, however, officials adopt a much softer tone. This village is presented to us as the perfect example of how communities can live side by side in peace and harmony. But discussion gets heated when we ask the doctor if the Rohingya are actually Burmese.
I am sure that they are not Burmese because they are not our Burmese ethnic group. For the Myanmar citizenship, if they want to be the Myanmar citizenship, I already told you that they have to apply for the national verification process.
A process set to be difficult, as some generations of Rohingya have no proper papers, unlike their parents and grandparents.
Their situation is not good because of the no free.
We are wanted nationality card. That's all. All problems solved.
Are you frightened in Myanmar?
No.
Why are you frightened? What do the Rakhine do?
The two brothers fear they could be attacked at any moment for simply being Muslim. They suddenly give us a more positive message on the situation. A soldier has just appeared behind us.
This place name is in Akuya. There is a Hindu and Muslim and Rakhine. They are third religion is living to peace, only peace in no violence is in here.
What do we need?
Let's go.
Burma's de facto leader Aung San Suu Kyi now has to govern with the same generals who once placed her under house arrest. And the army remains powerful with control of key ministries. When the Nobel laureate finally responded to mounting international criticism, she refused to blame the army.
They are concerned to hear that numbers of Muslims are fleeing across the border to Bangladesh. We want to find out why this exodus is happening.
The lady disappointed many foreigners who saw her as a human rights icon, capable of improving the situation of minorities. Her people, on the other hand, still adore her.
She is working hard because the importance is the peace and tranquility of our people, and that others know the truth.
What is the truth?
It is there. You can see. Seeing is believing.
Seeing is believing. Can you explain?
Yes. Oh, you see, there's no attack, no clash, no engagement now. Here and there, all over the Rakhine state.
Nobody knows the exact number of these ARSA fighters who dared to oppose the army. No figures have been released either on Muslim casualties. Once again, it's the civilians who've been the hardest hit in the latest wave of violence. Over 1 million Rohingya now live in neighbouring Bangladesh. Cox's Bazar has become one of the largest refugee camps in the world.
Well, Clovis Casali, who made that report, along with Charles Dupoisin, joins us now live from his usual base in the Thai capital. Clovis, first of all, talk us through how you managed to be a part of this trip and the difficulties that you encountered on the ground there in that northern Rakhine state.
Well, it was rather complicated to be accepted on this trip. We made several requests with authorities weeks before the trip, and we got the final approval only 36 hours before the flight. We had no idea where we were going exactly in northern Rakhine, who we would be talking to, so a lot of uncertainty. And on the ground, when we were there, we managed to leave the group on several occasions and talk to Rohingya civilians. The problem was that we did not have the right to do this trip with an interpreter who spoke Burmese or the Rohingya dialect, and therefore it was very difficult to communicate with the population. But we used a sign language, a few words of English, and the Rohingya understood pretty quickly that we were going to translate what they told us after.
Now, Aung San Suu Kyi has made a surprise visit to that restive Rakhine state. She's come under fire, of course, regularly during this whole crisis. What might she do next?
Well, it's very important to look at her role, of course, but it's also important to stress that it's a fragile democratic transition after decades of military dictatorship in Burma. Aung San Suu Kyi is now only the de facto leader. In other words, the army still has huge powers in Burma with control of key ministries. So possibly Aung San Suu Kyi does not have the possibility of doing exactly what she wants. Of course, she has the aura, but she can't afford to antagonize the highly powerful army in Burma. But of course, she has been heavily criticized for her silence in some ways during this crisis involving the Rohingya. She's been criticized by many in the international communities and by lots of NGOs who feel that she had the aura, the Nobel laureate, to do a lot more to prevent this mass exodus.
And Clovis, very briefly, the army appears to have come out stronger from this crisis. Why is that?
Well, the army is supported by the large majority of the population. Aung San Suu Kyi also is supported by the large majority of the population. The people in Burma very much feel that the Rohingya do not belong in Burma, that they are illegal immigrants from Bangladesh. In other words, the army's communication has worked to full extent, and the Burmese people believe the army when it says that it's simply fighting what it calls terrorists, the Rohingya fighters who attacked police posts and stations in late August.
Clovis Casali in Bangkok. Thank you very much. Well, that's it for this edition of Reporters. Do stay with us here on France 24. There's more world news and headlines coming up.